Alvin, coaching company in New Zealand. Where am I from, Jace? Where are we from?
Middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere, yeah.
We're in the middle of nowhere.
From New Zealand.
New Zealand.
I still get asked where we are.
New Zealand.
When I try to say, obviously I haven't seen saying from New Zealand enough.
I think you say it from almost every video, don't you?
Well, I thought I was saying it every video, but I still get asked where I'm from. And I was...
Maybe some people should just pay a little bit more attention.
Don't get me started. Right, what are we doing?
I'm not allowed to say that.
Not allowed to say that. Righto, what we're going to do today is we're going to put a VF series, VF1, VF2 transfer case onto the back of a A650. Real simple. I got this pretty cool adapter from Sammy in Pakistan. He's been making them up and we've watched the development of them and they've got better and better and better. He's sort of made a modular design. I've got a A650 in front of me and we're going to put it all together and show you a few tricks. We're not doing the complete assembly because this one's sold to a customer, but we're going to show a couple of things that are important when you're putting these together to make sure that everything works. Now, a big part of what Jason and I do is every time we do a job, even though we've done it a lot of times before, we measure. We measure twice and we cut once. And we check clearances every time. And we check that seals are in the right place and that seals are sealing. And oil feeds. This is the stuff we do every single time. So there's a lot of parts that we use ourselves that we make look really easy and they're just a bolt together to us. But that's how we work. So when you're doing these jobs, if you're getting bits, okay, you need to pay attention the whole time. You need to pay attention. Because this is really important that you get it right, because otherwise you're going to have problems. This is conversions, this is swaps. We've been doing it a long time. It's second nature to us. And we do our best to show what we're doing in our videos. Right, A650. So this is actually out of a UCF20 VVTI. You're going to make noise. Make noise. Hurry up. Make the noise. So this is an A650 out of a UCF20 VVTI. Also comes out in the 3UZs, the early, up to 2003. 3UZs have that same box. Some Crowns with the VVTIs and the 3UZ had that box. Right. 6-pin solenoid plug. This is the gear selector start inhibit switch, or neutral safety switch. Same as some of the earlier UCF20s. And on this body tag here, it says, oh, can we see it? It says 3550 LS. 3550 LS. There's some other numbers too of where it came from, what it came out of. This one here is interesting because that actually tells you again it's where it came from. So we have 35000 on the tag, but underneath it it's 50110, which is 50 being it was out of an LS series car. In this case it was a Celsius. On here, how many positions has it got? How many gear positions?
5-speed, eh?
It's a 5-speed.
So, 5. Right. Right, reverse, neutral, drive. 1, 5, 6.
6. Same as the 4 speeds. 6 positions. Six. Right, it differs from that one. Right, A761. That's out of a 3UZ. That's a 6-speed. Right, different shift, gear, selector switch, and start neutral, or neutral start. But some of the other 5 speeds do have that same switch on them. Okay, and in here we've got, we'll go back here, that's park 1, 2, 3, 4, and it does this funny thing here. So different on levers inside. This is being the 6-speed. We've already cut the shaft. Okay, so that's, you can see there it's approximate the measurement that we're expecting to cut the shaft. Another important feature is this speed sensor is in the body of the transmission. The speed sensor on this one is in the tail shaft. Right, we're going to look in here. We take the 30mm nut off the back. So I've already removed the drive shaft. There's the 3-bolt flange. The 30mm nut, I just rattle them off. That slips that off. Sometimes there's some thrust washers that will come out with that. 30mm. We remove the tail housing. Gearbox mount's normally bolted underneath. Just going to get rid of that. And I heard it go jingle jingle. There are those thrust washers. Now you can see here we've got a one-way clutch. Let's get right in there, shall we? We've got this one-way clutch, which is very distinctive to this 5-speed transmission. It's got these locator thingies, and it's got this speed sensor here. Now, oh sorry, this reluctor ring, that the speed sensor, or the trigger wheel. It's actually got a little mark on it right here. It's got a little line. That's because there's the oil feed right there. It lines up with that line, and the oil comes through here. That bearing. That bearing, this bearing is pressed up against it with those thrust washers, and then on the back of the bearing there's some cutouts, and the oil comes down the back by the seal and falls and drains back through the bearing into the transmission. And that's how the oil gets there. We don't need that oil feed anymore. Right, so I'd like to see them blanked off. There's no real good way to do it. So what we're going to do is blanket, that's you wrap up because it's cold. We're going to blank the oil further down, and I'll show you how to do that with a little bit of sealant around the spline. If someone comes up with a good idea, I used to have some lead, like a shotgun pellet. I used to use to blank a few bits and pieces up, like little tiny bits, but this one's really tiny. We don't want stuff going the wrong place. We don't want like putty and stuff like that that can come loose. We don't want that. The other one I've thought of is a grub screw through here to hold the speed sensor on, which is another possibility if you want to do that. Am I putting it on? Putting it on the right way. Right, there's also these locators here and here. I line them up with there, and there's an oil feed down the bottom here, which is blanked off. It goes to a port in that housing. This one here. So here I've got the adapter sitting on my VF series transfer case, and you'll notice that this shaft got a big long shaft. When you take it off the surf, these come off a 130 surf, it's going to be much shorter. Now I'm expecting it to be cut off about here, okay, about there, but we do the measurements. So Sammy's made these more modular over the early ones. The early ones were a steel design welded together. This one you've got these big Allen keys inside. Here's your recess for your one-way clutch. Shifter goes on top. Now confirm the dowels. That one just slipped out. Seal inside. So the seal seals onto this surface here. there is a sleeve. Now the sleeve is the right size for here. Shoop. And it is the right size for here. Right, so I measured that distance, was 80. Right, so I'm going to measure this height. Now remember guys, there is a dowel, so don't go measuring it with the dowel. $280 leaves us 120. It's pretty much there. Okay. Now the kit comes with gaskets. Comes with 2 sets of gaskets. If you want to use them, use them. Factory, they use a beta silicon. Okay, so it's up to you whether you want to use them. This back surface here is normally left dry. It's a non-sealed area. If you're four-wheel driving, put a bit of sealant on it. If you're going to use the gaskets, factor that into your calculations. And this shaft's going to fit on there. You're going to have some penetration for that bit. Come have a look at this, Pete. Now, this is a good box, guys. I'm not going to cut it up for this particular job. Oh, remember your one way. There are cutouts in here. Oh, we've moved them a little bit. So they are that way. It's that way.
That's nice. Where'd that come from? America.
Pakistan.
What's an adapter like that worth?
Lots.
$1,000?
Oh, and then some.
Even from Pakistan?
Yeah, well, you also got the freight. You've got to line that piece up correctly, which is really important.
This?
Yeah. That. There's two of them. There's a one-way, because there's a one-way clutch in there. You see? So that fits in.
Oh, yeah.
And you see this actually snugs.
Like a spread clutch?
Yeah, that snugs onto there. So one thing that's really, really important is when you do all your measurements, is that you don't have that shaft touching the end of, well, effectively it's that shaft there. You've got to make sure there's some clearance in there. And what I actually recommend people do is, if you have a look here, I'll show you. There's your clutch and stuff. And it'd be nice to have, like, that holds in. So this is all held in properly.
Is that what the spring clip does? A spring clip?
Nah, so that spring clip's like a thrust.
Right.
That's a thrust surface to stop this.
Chatter.
Yeah, well, it doesn't actually move anyway.
No.
So that doesn't move, it's of course the centre that moves.
Yeah. No, what I mean is spring clip holds that in place.
Yeah, it
Doesn't really.
it holds.
Enough to assemble it.
Yeah, well, but then it's got thingies in here.
Yeah, that's lining that up, yeah.
There's
No, I
a
mean
line.
inwards.
Yeah, it does sort of stop it inwards. I actually think what would be really good, because there's an oil feed in here too. There's an oil feed.
Yes.
There's actually just a little drill,
through.
drill a hole in there, and put a very small grub screw, and secure this.
So it's,
Into there.
yeah, okay.
So the clutch comes off. I'm not sure if you meant to take the clutch off, but I do. And then see this housing stops the clutch, that one-way clutch coming down too far. If you actually look in the factory housing, it's got got these little pieces here
They land on.
that they land on. And of course it's not spinning, it's the inside that's spinning.
Yes, but it stops that travel. And
Stops that travel. Yeah. So these are his new design with an all aluminium.
Oh, nice.
And it's a modular series. So you can take this piece
By components.
and you can buy that piece.
Yeah.
And then once you've assembled it, got your distances right, we've still got this, see the oil, there's a little oil feed there?
Yeah.
I reckon that the secret there is actually to take a little bit of sealant around here, because this is into a dry surface, so in here it doesn't have any oil.
You don't want the oil there.
You don't want oil there. There's a seal to stop it coming through, and in here there's a seal, which seals on this surface.
Sealant around that end.
Yes, put a bit of that seals there, but you've still got a little bit of oil splash around in here. So I reckon just a little bit of sealant on here is going to be the go. Bang that on there, and then assemble it up.
Put the seal on that side where you want it, so when it goes on, it just doesn't wipe it from the beginning to the
and
end.
it can't climb off.
Yeah,
A little bit of sealant there.
That'll do.
Technically, you've got a seal here, so even if oil coming down here,
You can't get past there.
it comes in.
You don't really want it coming out through here.
It's going to come out. It's going to put some pressure on there. So I think a little bit of sealant's the answer there. Bang. Don't worry about this side. And
It'd want to be a pretty good sealant too, because it would probably try and fuck it off, wouldn't it? Really?
Yeah.
That's supposed to float though, eh? So you don't want that. You don't want that located. Is it supposed to float or something? No, it's locked in place, isn't it?
so that's locked in there.
And that sets the clearance.
Yeah,
So
and you want to have when you measure it, of course, you want to have it so
you got fully engaged nut.
the shafts don't touch. You've got to check because there are gaskets, so you're using this onto that,
Yeah,
but you don't want to have too much pressure on there.
No.
And you do actually have some tuning. Look at that. You have some tuning with those.
Shim it. Okay.
So you've actually got some shims if you wanted to.
Do you just set the length of this to suit,
Yeah.
and then shim it to fine adjust it?
And then you can shim it to fine adjust it. Because normally it's all preloaded
Yeah.
with the nut onto that surface there. The nut does up and it holds it all together.
And it should take up onto the shoulder, should it?
The nut does. So
Because it's got its own.
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. That sets that taper goes against that.
So you're removing all that. There's a bit of thrusty here, but that we never had a problem with that.
You want some of that still.
Um,
You don't want it pulled one way, really, do you?
yeah, so this should be wrong way.
Set to clearance. Set to.
So pretty close to being all correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And then so there's gaskets. So gasket thickness to work in as well. One gasket on each side. But of course, if they don't want gaskets, then it may need either the shims removed
Yeah.
or a little smidgen taken off there.
Spin off that. Okay.
It's a swap. You know what it's like to do a swap. So
Yeah.
you've done a bit of this sort of stuff and modification. So that's how it all fits together.
So this is a
That's the
fabricated version.
that's the earlier
Earlier iteration, and,
That's
and it's heavy as all fuck.
that's the earlier version that's fabricated. Still works really well.
Yeah.
Does the job.
That's just superior. More
But
than
he's gone into yeah, mate. Yeah, that's right.
That's cool. Really like for my new truck.